or lacking a vision or doctrine. The Gate is a perfect example of this. On its surface, it's just the story of Sosuke and Oyone, a determinedly self-effacing couple in a small house in Tokyo in the first decade of the 20th century, when the book was written. Sosuke, for reasons that furnish the gradual drama of his story, has all but stepped out of the official world, even though, and sometimes because, he feels such a rich sense of duty towards so many of its members. The book delights, more than any Soseki book I've read, in the everyday details of the late Meiji landscape, from gas lamps to cigarettes and men in greatcoats to the sound of a wooden fish block from the local temple. Yet its author, unexpectedly, goes out of his way to stress that his protagonists are living in mundane circumstances, as befits those who are lackluster and thoroughly ordinary to begin with. In a certain light, the entire story is about what never comes to pass. A character falls ill, and then nothing much happens. A long-feared reunion fails to take place. A search for spiritual revelation seems to reveal very little. Look closer, however, and you can see how everything is happening between the spaces and in the silences. To take an example almost at random, Chapter 5 begins with Sosuke's aunt, much discussed, but always somewhere else, finally visiting his house and exchanging pleasantries. You could call them platitudes, with her nephew's wife. Nothing could be more ordinary or without effect. Yet notice that the aunt's first comment is about how unnaturally chilly the room is. And recall that the external temperature, and especially the slow cycling of the seasons, are always telling us something about mood and tone in this book. Part of the beauty of the novel comes from the way that it begins, very carefully in autumn, takes us through the dark and cold of winter, and ends in its final passage with the arrival of spring. We also learn, in the chapter's opening paragraphs, that Sosuke's aunt, on whom his welfare seems to depend, looks strikingly young for her age. We've already been told that Sosuke, as his aunt likes to stress, looks unreasonably old for his. We read that Sosuke ascribes his aunt's healthy appearance to her having only one child, yet even that thought underlies the fact that he and Oyone have none. As the laughter of kids drifts down from the landlord's house up the embankment, the location itself is no coincidence, and sounds coming in from outside are at least as important here as the words that are never exchanged. Sosuke's wife can't help feeling empty and wistful. The aunt then says that she owes the couple an apology, which conspicuously prevents her from actually offering one, and refers pointedly to her son's graduation from university, since Sosuke, we've already been told, owes much of his present predicament to having dropped out. The whole scene might be taking place around me, every hour, in the modern western suburb of the 8th century Japanese capital, Nara, where I've been living for 20 years. "Oh, you look so well," a woman says to another, outside the post office, emphasizing with a craft worthy of a Jane Austen character that she didn't before, and might not be expected to now. "It's only because I've so little to worry about," the other will respond, to put the first one in her place. "It's hot, isn't it?" the first will now say, perhaps to suggest that nothing lasts forever. "Isn't it?" says the second, and no observer could find any evidence for the combat that's just been concluded. As Sosuke's aunt, in The Gate, goes on about how her son is getting into combustion engines, and on his way to profits so huge they could ruin his health, she's drawing attention to the money she's not giving to Sosuke, the success of her son by comparison, and, in Meiji Japan, the fact that her progeny is eagerly taking on the Western and the modern world, and is not stuck in his Japanese ways and the past, as Sosuke seems to be. Sosuke himself, meanwhile, is characteristically absent, at the dentist's office, taking care of a problem that his wife ascribes to age. One magazine he picks up in the dentist's waiting room is called Success, and in its pages he reads of the furious forward movement that is exactly what seems closed.